The first time someone tried to steal my land, they did it with a welcome sign. Yeah, not guns, not bulldozers, not some dramatic showdown a damn sign. Big, polished, expensive-looking thing planted right at the mouth of my road like it had always been there. Said something like, Silver Pine Ridge Private Access. Clean font, glossy finish, real smug energy. Like overnight, I'd woken up and accidentally joined a country club I never asked for. I stood there a good minute just staring at it, coffee still in my hand, morning air biting my face. Pine trees whispering, gravel crunching under my boots, and this shiny little line nailed into my dirt like it owned the place. That was the moment I knew peace was over. See, I didn't always live out in the Montana wilderness. I earned my way there the slow, stubborn way. Navy first. Years of salt, steel, and orders barked by men who never learned how to whisper. After that, a decade working with my hands, welding, fixing engines, crawling under machines most people were too scared to even look at. Every dollar I saved had one purpose: quiet. Real quiet. Not suburban quiet, mountain quiet. So when I finally bought those 20 acres tucked against the Bitterroots, it wasn't just land. It was freedom with dirt under its fingernails. A log cabin I built piece by piece. A workshop that smelled like oil and cedar. A long, winding gravel road that I graded myself every spring. My road. My dust. My rules. For the first year, life was exactly what I dreamed. No traffic. No noise except wind and coyotes. Neighbors were miles apart and decent enough to wave and mind their own business. We had this unspoken Montana contract. You respect my land, I respect yours, and nobody starts anything stupid. Then Silver Pine Ridge showed up. 3 miles away, investors from somewhere shiny and coastal decided Montana needed luxury and mountain living. Gated community, manicured trails, designer mailboxes, the whole sterile, overpriced fantasy. And of course an HOA. Because nothing says freedom like a committee deciding how tall your grass is allowed to be. At first, I ignored them. Their roads didn't touch mine, their fences didn't cross my line. They were just another patch of civilization trying to cosplay wilderness. But developers are like mold, they spread. And somewhere along the line, they noticed my road was the easiest way to reach their new kingdom. First letter came on fancy paper. Real classy. Offered to integrate my access road into the Silver Pine Ridge infrastructure. Translation: hand over my driveway so their buyers could shave 10 minutes off a commute they shouldn't have had out here in the first place. They even offered to maintain it for me, like they were doing me a favor. I didn't reply. Figured silence would say what I meant. Then they showed up in person. 2 of them. Polished smiles, clean boots, that air of people who'd never fixed anything in their lives but thought they owned everything. The man introduced himself as Douglas Crane, HOA president. The woman, Janet, some kind of legal advisor. They stood on my porch like missionaries trying to sell salvation with bylaws attached. They talked about safety, community harmony, property values, used words like shared responsibility. I let them talk, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, just listening to the wind move through the pines behind them. When they finally ran out of buzzwords, I said the only thing that felt honest. Not my problem. You could almost hear something crack behind Douglas's smile. After that, things turned petty. The sign showed up. I ripped it out with a crowbar and tossed it in the truck bed like scrap metal. That should have been the end of it. But entitlement has a funny way of growing teeth when you tell it no. They sent security next. Rent-a-cops in black SUVs cruising my road like they were auditioning for a low-budget cop show. Tried stopping my neighbors, asking for permits to drive on land that had been gravel and dust since before their development brochures existed. I called the sheriff once. Just once. He had a talk with them that apparently included the phrase criminal trespass, and they backed off for about 3 days. Then the sabotage started. Gravel dumped across my driveway. Drainage ditches filled in so rain would flood the entrance. Someone even loosened the bolts on my gate so it sagged like a busted hinge. No proof, of course. People like that never get their hands dirty where cameras might catch them. The thing that really flipped the switch, though, The moment it stopped being a nuisance and turned into a war was the cameras. I came home one evening, golden hour, sliding down the mountains, and something fell off. Took me a second to spot it. Little black domes screwed into my fence posts. One on a pine tree, one on the corner of my workshop, like mechanical ticks feeding off my own property. They'd come onto my land and installed surveillance. No warning, no permission, just decided they had the right. I didn't think, didn't call anyone. Just grabbed a crowbar and went to work. Metal snapping, plastic cracking, pieces hitting the dirt. By the time I was done, the ground looked like a tech graveyard. That night, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the pile of busted cameras and realized something cold and simple. They weren't trying to negotiate anymore. They were trying to outlast me. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to outlast them. I called a lawyer the next morning. James Holloway. The guy had a reputation for chewing up predatory HOAs and spitting out their paperwork like sunflower seeds. He skimmed their legal threats, leaned back, and smiled like someone who'd just been handed a loaded deck. Good, he said. Now we hit back. Here's the twist I didn't see coming, though. This stopped being just about me real fast. Once we filed the lawsuit, things started surfacing. County records, survey maps, permits that didn't line up. Turns out Silver Pine Ridge had been playing a quiet little game of shifting boundaries. Not just with me, with other landowners too. Little accidental overlaps. Trails that wandered across private lines. Fences that crept a few feet too far. And suddenly I wasn't just a stubborn guy in the woods anymore. I was the guy who finally said it out loud. The night it really escalated, I woke up at 1:30 a.m. to tires on gravel. You know that sound when you live rural. It hits different after midnight. Not traffic, not coincidence. Intent. Check my cameras, the ones I installed after the surveillance stunt. And there they were. 2 security SUVs parked in my barricade. One guard out front, bolt cutters in hand, chewing through my lock like he was opening a soda can. I grabbed the shotgun. Not because I wanted trouble, but because sometimes peace needs punctuation. By the time I stepped into the cold, the sky was black velvet and the mountains were just shadows. I racked the slide loud, the kind of sound that carries. That guard froze mid-cut. You could see it even in the dark. That tiny collapse in posture when reality shows up uninvited. Evening, I called out. Calm. Real calm. You boys lost. They mumbled something about orders. Policy. Patrol routes. All the usual nonsense people hide behind when they know they're wrong, but hope confidence might make it legal. I just looked at them and said, "You want the sheriff involved? Or you want to leave?" They left. And the next morning, I sent the footage to everyone who mattered. That's when the house of cards started folding. County inspectors rolled in like hornets. Found zoning violations, illegal surveys, construction permits that looked like they'd been signed in invisible ink. Turns out Silver Pine Ridge wasn't just arrogant, they were sloppy. And nothing scares bureaucrats more than sloppy paperwork. Then the arrests hit. Those 2 guards? Charged with criminal trespass. Real charges. Real cuffs. Real headlines. And suddenly the tone shifted. The same HOA that had threatened me with lawsuits started whispering about settlements. Private meetings. Quiet resolutions. They wanted this buried. I wanted it exposed. In court, their lawyer tried spinning it as a misunderstanding. Community conflict. Said I'd been uncooperative. I remember sitting there listening to him talk, feeling something strange, not anger anymore. Just clarity, like watching someone try to repaint the sky. Then James played the footage. The courtroom went still. You could hear fabric shift, someone cough in the back. That kind of silence that feels heavy. The judge watched the video all the way through, trespassing, illegal construction, midnight bolt cutters, then just looked over his glasses like a man who'd already made up his mind. Their counterclaims died right there. The settlement came fast after that. Bigger than I expected. Public apology. Board resignations. $250,000 wired into my account, like an admission stamped in ink. The HOA dissolved within months. Turns out when people realize their exclusive community is built on fraud, property values fall faster than pride. And the best part? I used a chunk of that settlement to build the biggest, meanest steel gate you've ever seen. Floodlights. Cameras. Reinforced posts sunk deep enough to outlive me. Then I put up a sign. Simple, clean, honest. Private property. No HOA jurisdiction. Trespassers prosecuted. And just for a little poetry, I had Douglas Crane's name engraved at the bottom. Small letters. Permanent reminder. Here's the thing nobody tells you, though. Winning doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like quiet coming back. Months later, I was sitting on my porch with a cold beer, watching the sun melt behind the ridgeline, and it hit me. All that chaos, all that rage, and now it was just wind again. Just trees. Just the sound I'd fought for in the first place. That's when the lesson finally settled in. Not loud, not preachy, just there. Power doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like paperwork and smiles, and people assuming you won't push back. And greed? Greed almost always overplays its hand. It counts on silence, on exhaustion, on people deciding peace is worth surrender. But sometimes peace is something you have to defend before you can enjoy it. These days, word gets around. Other landowners call me now and then. Ask what they should do when someone with money and lawyers starts leaning on them. I tell them the same thing every time. Know your ground. Literally. And don't assume bullies are bigger than they are. Every now and then I run into former Silver Pine Ridge folks in town. They see me, look away real quick, like eye contact might reopen a chapter they'd rather forget. I don't chase them down. Don't gloat. I just buy my supplies, nod to the cashier, and head back to the mountains. Because the real victory isn't watching them lose. It's driving home on my road, hearing that gravel crunch under my tires, knowing every inch of it is still mine. And sometimes, late at night, when the world goes quiet enough, I think about how close it all came. How easy it would have been to sign a paper, take the perks, avoid the fight. How different things might look if I'd chosen comfort over confrontation. So I'll leave you with this. If someone tried to take something that was rightfully yours, not with force, but with pressure, paperwork, persistence, how far would you go to stop them? Where's the line between protecting what's yours and becoming something harder than you ever wanted to be? I'm curious where you land on that. Drop your take. Right or wrong, justice or revenge. And if you've ever had a moment where you had to stand your ground, tell that story too. Because out here, and maybe everywhere, the quiet only stays quiet if somebody's willing to defend it.